Ready.
Great. Hey, thank you everybody for being here. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Board of Trustees to order. Would we please have the roll?
Sure, roll call. Trustee Clark.
Here.
Trustee Collum. Here. Trustee Davis Ford.
Here.
Trustee Levison.
Present.
Trustee Rosner. Trustee Schnall.
Here.
Village President.
Here.
Just for the record, Trustee Rosner did indicate he would likely be late.
Yeah, he's stuck on the trail.
Okay. Also in attendance, Barry Lewis, Village Administrator, Stephen Rother, Village Council, and myself, Chanel Smith, Deputy Clerk.
And also myself, I'm present.
Also, excuse me,
Thank you.
our
Deputy go.
Deputy Administrator, Adam Lerner, and our Village Clerk, Robin Klein.
Thank you.
Meeting notice statement. Adequate notice of this meeting had been provided to the press on August 27, 2013, in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and JSA 10:4-6. In addition, notice of this meeting was posted in Village Hall and on the Village's website. Action may be taken.
Thank you. At the request of the trustees, I called the special meeting to order. There is one resolution on there. Before we take any action, of course, we have a public comment period as well. However, Trustee Schnall did inquire before when would be the appropriate time during the meeting to make a procedural motion, and now or any time would be the time.
I'll do it now. Thank you, President. I'd like to move to reconsider the reappointment of the current municipal clerk at a future meeting and table the resolution at hand.
I second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Schnall, seconded by Trustee Collum. All in favor?
I think you need a roll call, right?
I was going to see how the vote went before doing so, but we can take a roll call.
Should we have a discussion or go right into?
If there are any comments or questions, sure.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring this up is I believe since we've last had a meeting, there has been additional information that perhaps this board has not had a chance to consider. There's been a groundswell of citizen response, of interest from our residents, expressing their interest and concern about this upcoming resolution. There also has been an official letter that has come from the municipal clerk indicating that she has a specific interest in collaborating and speaking with this board to see if we can identify a way to move forward that would still work, given some of the concerns this board had, specifically around tenure. In light of those, I would like to have a discussion and see if there is perchance that there is a movement to table this.
Okay.
And I would add that as well. One of the unique circumstances with any personnel matter is that the public sees on the agenda that we're discussing a reappointment of the village clerk, but not given any context. They don't know exactly how they formalize their comments or how they submit comments, not knowing what we're discussing. And one of the things that I know that this board truly values is the public participation in village matters. And I agree with Trustee Schnall that over the past couple of weeks since the board's decision was made public, we've heard from a lot of members of our community who have kind of shown a testament to their interactions with our village clerk, who has been the face of customer service to this community. And we're hoping, since we haven't had a chance to have an additional meeting to discuss this in closed session, we're urging other members of the board to reconsider their position in light of all these new facts. The village clerk did send a letter requesting a reconsideration of this board. Unfortunately, the deadline wasn't, the deadline passed for submission for that specifically to be noted on this agenda. So I think by tabling the resolution at hand and reconsidering the clerk's reappointment, we'd be doing a service to this community. And I urge the other members of the board to support it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, can we have the roll, please?
Is there I'm sorry, for procedural, is there a chance, when does public comments go on for something like that? Is there a chance for the public to
The
speak?
public comment period is after this point, so
we
you can
would
make a
vote?
procedural motion at any time during a meeting that can interrupt anybody speaking or anything at all. And the public comment period is before the the resolution, the action that's on the agenda.
Okay, motion, roll call. Trustee Clark?
Yes. I mean, are we voting or are we just doing?
Yes is
roll call?
adjourning.
Yes
Why don't
is
you
to adjourn the
Motion
meeting
to-
and table the resolution for another meeting.
And reconsider the clerk's reappointment.
Then nay.
Sorry. One moment. Trustee Collin?
Yes.
Trustee Davis-Ford?
No.
Trustee Levison?
No.
Trustee Rosner is absent. Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Motion does not carry.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting up for public comments. I don't know if we have a sign-in sheet back there we can start with. Thank you. Okay. Bob Landau. I'll just remind anybody who's speaking, just speak into the microphone, name and address, and please try and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Bob Landau. I'm a 15-year resident of South Orange with my partner, Jerry Boyce, at 368 Meeker Street. This procedural vote notwithstanding, I still hope that you'll do the right thing, that you will reconsider what you're doing. There is still time. There has been nothing but praise from past village presidents, from past trustees of this board, local merchants, heads of the Chamber of Commerce. I've heard nothing but extensive and detailed praise for the performance of Robin Klein in this position. Now, it's clear that, as it says on the village website, the board has expressed a fundamental opposition to tenure and intends to address the issue of tenure with the state legislature. I would like to see a formal resolution to that effect, because I don't think you've ever actually had one. And I would also like to see the plans, exactly what any of you have done to contact the state legislature to address this issue. In the meantime, this is like an egregious form of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Well, for instance, to quote the village president in an interview, he was feeling that, you know, the system, we need a system to revise this tenure because to encourage job performance and allowing for removal with just cause, and that was in the alternative press. But of course, according to state law, when the position becomes tenured after 5 years, the clerk shall not be removed thereof except for good cause shown after fair and impartial hearing. So you already have that remedy of fair and impartial hearing, and you can remove a clerk. The real problem here, of course, is the 5-year period in which after that a clerk has to get tenure, according to state statute. However, on the village website, it specifically says the successful candidate must be a New Jersey registered municipal clerk in good standing and should have at least 5 years of experience. Anybody you hire is going to have to be giving up a tenured position somewhere else. And you have said specifically that you don't want to give anyone tenure, so after 3 years, they're out of a job. Whoever's going to take this position, that is crazy. You're either going to get somebody who's had a succession of 3-year jobs because they're incompetent, or I don't know what. I mean, that does not make any sense.
30 more seconds.
Fine. We have an excellent town clerk, and you're standing on ceremony about a philosophical position. This woman should retain her job because she's done a wonderful job. And who the hell are you going to get if you're promising to fire them after 3 years? That's it.
Thank you. So, hold on. We can do that after public comments. Ben Salmon?
It's for public comment. I'm going to correction.
Ben Salmon, 325 Meeker Street. Man, I have to be honest, I'm really surprised to be here today. As a resident, a business owner, and as the secretary of an organization that works directly with the village, I've had dozens of experiences with Robin Klein over the last 3 years. I have to, every single interaction of these dozens, I rate these interactions as an A+. The customer service she gives should be an example of the customer service every single department in the village should be given. And how a clerk's office should be modeled. She's open, she's friendly, and she has amazing follow-through. And I don't understand, I truly have not heard any negative feedback from anybody that I have ever talked to about our clerk's, how she does her job. And I love our staff in Village Hall, but I have to say that's not true with everybody. And I can only include then, from that information, I can only conclude that Robin Klein is a phenomenal employee. And there's a petition out there with 100 signatures of really thoughtful comments from people, a surprising cross-section of leaders in our community that agree with me on this. They agree that Robin is an exceptional employee that we shouldn't lose. In the village press release and subsequent interviews, even village president Torpy lauded Robin Klein. Why we would be willing to lose an exceptional employee because all of a sudden we don't believe in tenure, and I haven't heard this on the dais before, it is insane to me. I mean, this is actually funny because I swear I have this written down. The resident before me just used throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I have that exact same phrase in here. It feels like throwing the baby out with the bathwater is my exact same thought. And what clerk is going to want to work with South Orange knowing they won't be reappointed in 3 years? I don't understand the decision, and I don't understand how it could possibly be in the best interest of our village and of our constituents. I respect our Board of Trustees and our village president very much, and I don't understand, and this is not in the best interest of our village, and I urge you to reconsider.
Thank you. That's everybody on the sign-up sheet. If there's anybody else who wants to speak, please feel free to come forward.
You got to pull up and speak right directly into the
Do I
mic.
have to say who I am?
Yes.
Yes, and your address, please.
My name is Edith Oxfeld. I have lived in South Orange for almost 60 years. I did not come prepared to speak. By accident, I happened to call the Village Hall this afternoon to ask when the next public meeting was going to be held. They told me tonight. But obviously, not many people knew about this meeting. 2 days' notice on an email or something, internet, is not enough notice. However, I have met our village clerk when I've had any problem with any incident that may arise in the village. And I can only echo the comments of the previous speakers and the comments of the people who spoke to the local newspaper, and there was a full report, an excellent report in the news record, and that's why I came to this meeting tonight. I was so upset that this village board could be so cruel, so non-understanding of what it means to do an excellent job and be continued in that job. I mean, you're just, I would say, a bunch of men who don't understand it, but unfortunately the women don't understand it either, or they could not have passed this previous resolution. And so I'm not saying the right things, but I hope you do reconsider.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak at this time from the public? Okay, at this time I'd like to close public comments. There was one thing perhaps, Village Council, if you could address, just to perhaps educate anybody who's watching about tenure. There were some statements about tenure in the the 3 years or 5 years, and what good cause means in the tenure statute. If you could just briefly maybe provide some insight into that for anybody who's watching.
Sure. The 5-year provision that people have been talking about is the grandfathering provision that preceded the original tenure statute. The tenure statute itself only addresses 3-year period, so that after an initial appointment for 3 years, any reappointment during that 3-year term or during the 60-day period following it confers tenure on the individual. The language in the statute about good behavior can be a bit misleading. You have to read the case law in order to see what constitutes cause for removal. Cause for removal has to be extreme. Case law shows that clerks who have not been in attendance for many, many days, unexcused absences, the courts have refused to have such clerks removed. So while the language may look fairly favorable to a municipality to remove a clerk, in reality, the case law makes it very, very difficult.
And just to be clear, that applies, that's not clerks, but that's the 4 statutory positions.
And beyond.
And beyond those 4.
There are 4 statutory officers that have tenure, but there are other officers as well in municipal government that can get tenure. And the case law that covers the causes for which they can be removed are essentially applied to all of those positions. So it is very, very difficult to remove tenured officers.
Okay, thank you. So we have one item on our agenda, which is a resolution. Ms. Smith, can you please read the resolution by title?
Sure. A resolution appointing Chanel Smith as acting village clerk for the Township of South Orange Village pursuant to NJSA 48:9-133.c.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we temporarily recess the meeting until the 7th member of the Board of Trustees returns.
Okay, there's a motion, a motion by Trustee Collin to recess the meeting, a second by Trustee Schnall. Why don't we just go ahead and take a roll call vote there unless there's any discussion?
Well, I would like to add some discussion, just that for an item that seems to be, I wouldn't say hotly debated, but certainly divisive in terms of where the board is sitting, that this board would want to have the opinion of everybody on this board to weigh in on this. And so I think it would make sense if Trustee Rosner has indicated that we're not talking hours, but some minutes. I think it's worth our waiting and the residents waiting to
I don't think
have
it's
it.
minutes.
Right?
I don't think it's minutes.
What are we looking at?
It's about 30 minutes away.
I still maintain the motion. I think the last vote to reconsider the clerk's reappointment and table this resolution failed by a 3-2 vote. And Trustee Rosner, not knowing his input, might actually change the outcome. So I urge this board to temporarily adjourn until he gets here.
Okay, there was a motion and a second. We have the roll, please.
Roll call. Trustee Clark?
Nay. Nay.
Trustee Collin?
Yes.
Trustee Davisford?
No.
Trustee Levison?
No.
Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Motion does not carry.
Thank you.
I move to strike
Strike what?
the resolution tonight.
I will second.
Motion by Trustee Collin to strike this resolution.
Would you explain, could you have him explain what that means?
That's to remove this from consideration.
But didn't she? Okay.
Well, the previous motion was to recess. You can't make the same motion twice if one fails. But this is a different
I see.
motion.
Okay.
So this would be the only motion that would be allowed to remove something from consideration.
All right, so the motion
This
is
motion by Trustee Collins, second
Yep.
by Trustee Schnall.
to remove this. Okay.
Yes. Trustee Clerk?
Nay?
Trustee Collins?
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
No.
Trustee Levison?
No.
Trustee Rosner is absent. Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Motion does not carry.
I move the resolution.
I second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Levison, seconded by Trustee Davis Ford. Can we have the roll, please?
Trustee Clark?
Yay. Yes.
Yes. Trustee Davis Ford? Excuse me, Trustee Collins?
No.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Levison?
Yes.
Trustee Rosner is absent. Trustee Schnall?
No.
The motion carries.
Mr. President, I
Thank you.
just want to add I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, my negative vote had nothing to do with this resolution appointing you as the acting municipal clerk. I didn't agree with the premise of why this resolution was introduced, but I wish you the best of luck, and I'm very, very certain that you are capable of this.
And I would reinforce the exact same message. Hey, as is general practice in these meetings, I do like to open up for public comment after we've taken action. So if there's anybody who hasn't spoken yet and wants to speak, please feel free to come up. And if you have already spoken, feel free to come up as well.
Robin Klein, Village Clerk. Just a procedural question on my end now. Does this mean that I'm given a 2-day notice and then I'll be stepping down? And my question is only because on August 15th, I was being asked by both the village president and the village administrator to please remain on board till September 30th. I agreed to that. And in good faith, I intend to continue to do that. Just needing some clarification now on what pleases this board.
Yeah, I think that's a matter between you and the administration. You should sit down and immediately discuss, and I know that the administration is ready to do that.
Okay.
So I think that's something that should be discussed with them offline.
All right, I was given no
Yeah.
prior notice, so
No.
I thought it would be appropriate to ask.
No, and I am sure this will be worked out in a very amicable way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I didn't quite get all the nuances of the yes and no's. What I see is a board who's sitting there who fired a most marvelous employee. For what reason? What's the reason? Give me a reason.
Is that your whole comments on?
Yes,
on
I
what-
want to know.
Okay,
What
well-
right do you have to fire an employee who has been doing superb work for the community?
I'll be happy to respond to your question, but in the interest of making sure that anybody else who wants to speak can, I just ask that you let anybody else who wishes to speak, and then we'd be
And
happy
you
to
should be
speak to that.
ashamed of yourselves. One doesn't do that in any reputable organization, whatever the organization is. You just don't fire people like that.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public? Yep.
Bob Landau, here again. I understand that you were all bitten by having to deal with the former village administrator and the problems with tenure that involved, and that you have a philosophical disagreement. However, there are 4 tenured positions we have to deal with. Every municipality in the state has to deal with it. It's there. You can't make it go away. You can't wish it away. So you have now apparently resigned yourself to every 3 years finding a new village clerk. How are you going to do that? Are there that many competent people out there? And if you want 5 years of experience, you're going to have people give up tenure positions to come here for a 3-year contract and then leave? Robin Klein has done an exemplary job. You know, the fact that through E-Code, we can now get the village codes online through our smartphones and everything. I mean, there are so many things she's done. I have not particularly had dealings with the village clerk, but I have talked to so many people who have. This is, I'm just hoping that you have some other reason, some other excuse for this. For somebody who was that, I haven't even heard a hint, a whisper of anything of job performance that would lead me to believe she should be let go in any way. So, this is crazy. This is really crazy. This means every 3 years you're going to be back again doing this. Are they really lined up at the door waiting to work here? I don't see it. I don't see it. And other than that, I don't see an excuse for this. I really don't. So maybe after the meeting, if somebody wants to talk casually or perhaps in an email, I can inquire or something, but there's got to be some reason for what seems like one of the stupidest decisions by a board of trustees that I've seen in a while. It's a tenured position. Live with it. Deal with it. And she's great.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak at this time? Okay, seeing as nobody wishes to speak, I'd like to close public comments. The one thing again, Mr. Rother, that I may ask that you speak to just briefly, there was a question about what the board's reason was, and if perhaps maybe you could just speak a little bit to our ability or inability to discuss personnel matters or...
Sure. Personnel matters require that the governing body rights notice the employee that's involved. And the rights notice essentially gives the employee the power to decide whether or not the discussion concerning their terms of employment, their performance, all matters relating to their employment are discussed in public or in private. It's the employee's decision whether to do that in public or in private. In this case, the clerk was rights noticed and the clerk opted.
I'm sorry, could you just clarify in this case?
In this instance.
Which instance?
Right, it sounds like you're talking about tonight,
No.
so could you just clarify that further?
Yeah, this happened previously, you know. The clerk, over the course actually of several months, the clerk has opted that the discussion that the board engage in making this decision be held in private. That was not this board's decision to hold that discussion in private. It was the clerk's decision that it should be held in private. And that discussion was held over the course of several months, and they arrived at a decision not to reappoint the clerk. That was essentially the decision to allow the appointment to expire, which it did. Having done it in that fashion, the board is prohibited now from discussing what was taking place behind closed doors, the discussion that took place there at the option of the clerk.
Village President, may I speak to the attorney in private as my counsel? I have a question.
I don't normally allow private conversations during the meeting, but I'll defer to counsel, whether that's appropriate or not.
I believe you're my counsel.
Yeah, the entire board. I
Well,
represent the entire
including
board.
me. So
Of course.
I have a very personal and specific question I'd like to ask you.
Yeah, I can do that, certainly, sure.
I'll come over there.
Go into, you're right.
All right, Trustee Schnall just wanted me to clarify, and he's absolutely correct, a sequence of events that the public may have been misled. All of the meetings that took place prior to this meeting, where the trustees met in executive session, all of those sessions were pursuant to Rice notices that had been given to the clerk. And in each of those instances, she opted that the discussion take place in private. And of course, as I said, the consequences of that is that the trustees cannot then afterward reveal in public what they said and what happened in those meetings. Trustee Schnall would like to make clear that in connection with this meeting, there was a request by the clerk to have a public conversation, not a private one. But that request was received not in time to go into the 48-hour notice that's necessary for this particular meeting. And for that reason, it didn't get put into the notice. It's not an item on the agenda.
Counselor, just how many of those executive sessions that we had regarding this matter prior to today, and in each time there was Rice notice, was it 3 or 4?
It was at least 3. I would have to go back and look at the minute notes that I took, but it's at least 3.
So we've had 3 extensive discussions in executive session regarding this matter, and that the opportunity to decide whether to have the discussion public or private was given and refused.
Yeah. Yes, and all trustees and the village president participated in those executive session meetings.
President Clerk, since I am the village clerk tonight, I would like to make a couple of comments as well for the record. One being, I was not advised or informed that this meeting was going to occur tonight.
You need to go to
outside the 48-hour.
Ms. Klein, is your microphone on?
Is the microphone on now?
Yes.
All right. I was not advised and informed that this meeting would be occurring tonight until about 11 o'clock Wednesday morning. That was August 28th. That was already within the 48-hour notice. I sat with our village administrator in my office and we talked about that. And that was what we were talking about with a Rice notice, not just for myself, but that with our deputy clerk, if she is indeed going to be the subject of terms and conditions of employment, she too had a right to a Rice notice perhaps. We could waive it. There was never a discussion to waive it. I'd also like to speak on the record of one other issue. July 22nd. I believe it was July 9th, which was our conference meeting, and we had a special meeting. I was given a Rice notice. As a village clerk, I totally believe in the 9 exemptions for a governing body to hold closed session, or what we call executive session, and I hold it at a high level. It's so that the governing body can have full, robust discussion, unfettered, without any biases coming in that might prohibit a full discussion of a matter. I believe that when you have a fuller discussion, you make better decisions. So that's my premise for not waiving that Rice notice and asking for the discussion to be put in public session. Also, being a direct employee of yours, I would have expected some level of dialogue along the way. This is dating back to March when, after several months of trying to set up meetings with our administrator, our president, Personnel Committee, that went to the wayside. So back in March, I did send a written communication to the governing body, presenting what I knew to be my last 6 months in office, unless I'm reappointed. I was very patient. And I allowed time go by to see what kind of dialogue and discussion we have. I reached out to the Personnel Committee directly, both in writing and by direct contact by telephone. Never have received the courtesy of a response. July 9th, I received a Rice notice, and that Rice notice did say that should the governing body not continue its discussion, that the discussion would be continued to the next meeting, July 22nd. Here's what happened July 22nd. I put out the meeting agenda the Friday before, as I typically do. In there, I made it a point to let everybody know there is no executive session. After several email communications with our village president and village administrator, requesting, will there be any executive session? So the agenda packets went out. No executive session. That Monday, I had communications, written communications with 2 trustees as well as our village president. And in those written communications, I do what I called my woohoo email. Woohoo, no executive session tonight. I'll see you at 8 o'clock. Open session. Not one time did anybody rebuke that or correct me on that. At 6:15, we held a meeting with the Legal and Personnel Committee. I've been assisting that committee since November 2011, preparing agendas, writing the minutes of those proceedings, and making sure everything is fully disclosed and published on the website. That night, the chairman of that meeting said, well, fellas, well, guys, let's hurry up, let's finish this out. We have a meeting that we have to go to. And I reminded the chairman, oh no, tonight there's no executive session. It starts at 8 o'clock. You actually have some extra time. I was then informed at 7:30 or thereabouts by the attorney from our village council's office, who sat back and said, no, there is an executive session tonight. They're talking about you. And I was very surprised. Nobody gave me the courtesy of knowing that there'd be an executive session that evening, so that I knew that the Rice notice, should the discussion have been continued, would have continued July 22nd. That was disingenuous. But still, I will remain patient and cooperative. That's where we are tonight. Thank you.
I have a motion. Seeing as though Trustee Rosner is here, I'd like a reconsideration of the initial motion that Trustee Schnall had introduced earlier today. At this point, it would supersede what we just did, and it would be a reconsideration of the village clerk reappointment to the Township of South Orange Village.
Didn't we just vote? Aren't we done?
No, I can do a motion to reconsider as per parliamentary procedure, correct, Mr. Rother?
It's a procedural motion which can be made.
So
Then
can
I
you
will
make
second.
can you make the same motion twice?
No,
Is
I
it
didn't
only
hear-
substantive motions that can't be made twice in the same meeting?
No, she's making a motion to reconsider a resolution that was just adopted, so she can make that motion.
And then I will
All
second.
right, can you make that clear again? So the motion that we just passed, appointing the acting clerk, your motion is to reconsider the
that
decision
motion.
that we just made.
Yes.
And allow for a reconsideration of Robin Klein as our municipal clerk.
Well,
You can't
you
do-
need to make one motion at a time. I mean, don't combine it. After you get that motion, then you can make a second motion.
I'll break them up. Okay, a motion to reconsider.
And this is partly, again, because Mark Rosner has now let it be said, is here.
Agreed, yes.
Okay, so a motion by trustee Column, a second by trustee Schnall. We have the roll, please.
Sorry, one second. Motion by trustee Column, second by trustee Schnall. Roll call, trustee Clark,
Yay.
trustee Column,
Yes.
trustee Davis Ford,
No.
trustee Levison,
No.
trustee Rosner,
No, I apologize because the trains were late and I did have a meeting in the city. I missed most of this conversation and I feel like I came in the middle, so I'm going to abstain on this.
Is there an opportunity to summarize back for Mr. Rosner, trustee Rosner?
To summarize so far the meeting, in the middle of voting, I mean, the appropriate time would have been after the second,
So before we go, well,
so we can finish the voting.
and
Okay,
then how do we get trustee Rosner back up to speed?
The appropriate time for that would have been after the second, where the discussion.
I have to
Would
watch
be
it.
11.
trustee Rosner.
I have to watch
abstained.
it. I have to go back and watch it on TV.
There's really no discussion on the.
So in light of
On the vote.
the fact that trustee Rosner has not had an opportunity to see that and he would like to watch it, I would very much think it makes sense, given the importance of this vote, that we put it off so we have an opportunity for him to
Just
look
a
at
point
it.
of clarification, trustee Rosner, what I'm trying to do is delay, stall, strike everything to reconsider Robin Klein as our municipal clerk. A yes vote means that you want to reconsider with trustee Schnall and myself. A no vote means that you do not.
Yep. Like I said, the appropriate time to have this discussion would have been after the second, not
There's a
during the
vote on the
voting.
resolution
Right.
that has to be carried through.
That's correct.
On a motion for this, excuse me, a vote on the motion to reconsider.
To reconsider,
And that got started and should be completed.
Yes.
So we left off with
He's-
trustee Rosner's
he's
abstention.
He's abstaining.
Trustee Schnall,
You abstain? Where are we? I'm sorry. Can
this
you-
is a
It's
motion to
yes, trustee
reconsider.
Schnall.
This is a motion to
can't think of
reconsider.
Repeat it?
This is a motion to reconsider resolution to have me as acting municipal clerk. So trustee, you voted, you second to,
I understand. Can you
reconsider.
please repeat the motion?
a motion to reconsider the resolution for acting municipal clerk.
So I would say yes.
Excuse me. The vote does not carry.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That's all the business that we had on our agenda this evening.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, a motion by trustee Davis Ford to adjourn,
Second.
seconded by trustee Levison. Might as well take a roll call on this too.
No, just say all in favor.
All in favor, you can do. if you
We've been doing a roll call for voice votes all night, so why don't we just do?
like. Roll call, trustee Clerk,
Yes.
We got a yes.
trustee Collin,
No.
trustee Davis Ford,
Yes.
trustee Levison.
Yes.
Trustee Rosner,
Yes.
trustee Schnall.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Meeting adjourned, thank you.